Good evening. My name is Alan Jeanette. I am one of the co-facilitators of Southern Oregon Climate Action Now. My partner in crime is sitting next to me, Kathy Conway, and you'll be hearing much more from her a bit later on. I'd like to welcome you to our program on food waste and the climate crisis, what to know and what to do. I would like to acknowledge that this program is co-sponsored by three other organizations besides SOCAN. No Food Left Behind in Corvallis, from the Rogue Valley Farm to School and Southern Oregon Food Solutions. And we'd like to thank these partner organizations for co-sponsoring the program with us. I'd like to start the program by inviting Bella to offer the land acknowledgement. Bella?
Thank you, Alan. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we are gathered here on the occupied land of the Bagawa, Shasta, and Tacoma people. In 1850s, the tribes were displaced due to the gold rush and colonization of Southern Oregon. This brought war, starvation, genocide, and an erasure of local tribes. In 1853, the Rogue River Treaty was signed, where three tribes were forced to cede their lands of the upper Rogue Valley and relocate to temporary reservations, the closest one being Table Rock, located at Table Rock. We recognize that we are on stolen land and will work to protect our community, the climate, and environment for future generations. Oregon is home to 9 federally recognized tribes. However, there are many more that don't hold this status. We hope that with this land acknowledgement, you will research the land you reside on, work with us to honor the original caretakers, and to protect our environment and community in the work we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Bella. Really appreciate that. Bella Lee Tibbetts. A couple of notes before we start the program. As Kathy has reminded you a couple of times before the program started, please mute yourself and stay muted during the program. We will have a question and answer period at the end. So if you'd like to ask a question, please open chat, which is at the bottom of your screen if you're not familiar with the Zoom format. Please type all questions into the chat box, and then when you press return after typing, they will be submitted. Make sure that the target is everyone. Otherwise, they will go either nowhere or to one particular person.
If you can identify which speaker you would like your question to be addressed to, that would also be helpful.
Okay, the meeting format is presentations by three individuals, Flavia Franco, Rebecca Slosberg, and Jeanette Hardison. And we will be, I'm going to introduce Flavia in just a second, and she will introduce Rebecca, who will introduce Jeanette as we go through the program. And then after they have delivered their words of wisdom, we'll have a Q&A. And as always, towards the end of the program, Kathy will entertain you for the last 5 to 10 minutes with a summary of SOCAN and other group climate activities in the region. So let me start by introducing Flavia Franco, who is with Southern Oregon Food Solutions and has been working with SOCAN for quite a few months now. It's probably almost years, I think, Flavia. And Flavia will kick the ball rolling, kick the ball off, or kick the can off. And let me throw it to you, Flavia, for an introduction.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm grateful and excited all at the same time. So as you guys may know, April 10th through 16th is Food Waste Prevention Week, and it's kind of a big deal, and we're trying to make it a bigger deal, and it's a way to raise awareness in why we should care about food and food waste. So Kathy, if you could share this screen.
Jeanette, I think that's to you. Can you share your screen?
Oh, that was to, okay. Yes.
Okay.
Did not hear my name. All right.
Yeah, so, I wanted to just set some framework up for this discussion. So that is not the first page of the presentation, though.
Oh, let's try that again. Sorry about that, folks.
Oh, that's okay. No worries.
Thank you.
Nope, that's not the first page of my presentation.
Well, I'm not doing the screen sharing for you.
Okay, so Kathy, can you put up the presentation for mine and Rebecca's?
There you go. That's why I was so confused.
I'm sorry, Flavia, I think we've crossed messages because I thought that
Okay, well, I have it open, so if you want to make me co-host, I can share it.
you should be able to go ahead.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, sorry. Now you're
Oh.
good.
All righty. Excellent. Okay. Front. Going to the beginning. There. Okay, so now we're started off at the right place. Nope. Start from the beginning. All right. I wanted to explain first why food waste is an important issue. The food and food waste has an intersection with greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. And there's a couple of reasons why this intersection is happening. One is the chemistry of food waste and what happens to it, rotting food. Another reason is the volume. Currently, each year in the US, there's 119 billion pounds of food waste happening. And when you add that with the chemistry, that means that food waste is contributing a significant amount to greenhouse gases. And the other reason why it's a contributor is that our current food system is really inefficient. If you think about the inefficiency of an incandescent light bulb, so it only uses 6% of the energy that it started out with from the power plant to be generated. So the food system is a very inefficient system as well. So we'll take a look at that. And then I also wanted to talk about food waste using up precious resources. So we have so much land on the planet, and so much of that land is used for people to inhabit, and so much is used for natural habitat, and so much is used for agricultural land. So we're using an awful lot of land in order to grow food and to make food for 8 billion people to live on. So it's using the land, it's using the water, it uses a lot of labor. There's like 1/5 of the US economy is revolving around agriculture, and 20 million jobs. So to get food into us each day, that takes a lot of energy. And then also that soils are being depleted at a dangerous rate. So because of the conventional farming methods, a lot of soil is less healthy than it used to be 100 years ago, before there were pesticides and artificial fertilizers and herbicides. And then we also have a serious hunger issue. So even though we have all this food, it's not getting to the right people. So that is also a food waste issue. And then the last one is important because even though we spend over $200 billion a year in food subsidies to help farmers and to help people who need assistance getting access to affordable and nutritious food, these subsidies are not being used to the best effect to make our food system more efficient. So there we go. Oh, this is great. I'm having so much fun. Okay, is somebody else has the slide open? Okay, I'm gonna have to reshare.
And Flavia, you want to pass to Rebecca very soon, okay?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wing it here. So, one of the reasons why you're hearing more about the mainframe discussion is because people are saying that methane is such a major contributor. It's more than 80 times higher in carbon dioxide when averaged over 20 years. And people are saying that even we could attack climate change more effectively if we go after the methane, because it's taking so much time to take out the yeah. All right. Well, my browser just died, so we'll just have to wing it. And so are we close to, yeah, we have to switch over to Rebecca now. So Rebecca, I'm gonna ask if Kathy can do the slide presentation, then I'll let you talk and we'll see if we could get that righted from here.
Okay, Kathy, I can share my screen. I have it up if you need me to.
That'd be great. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, the challenge is I can't really share and forward my slides, so I'm going to have it on this mode, but can everyone see those?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, it's not in presentation mode, but it can't be in presentation mode and sharing at the same time. I'm the co-executive director of Rogue Valley Farm to School. So I just want to share a little bit about kind of our take on what we do with our students to help foster learning about climate change and food waste and kind of that bigger picture of cultivating health. So we have an education program we call our Digging Deeper School Partnership. We work with all the elementary schools in Phoenix Talent School District and in Central Point School District. And so we really come at this building a culture of health from lots of perspectives. So giving students a chance to appreciate where their food is coming from by visiting farms and getting to work in gardens. So as we thought about kind of all of our themes around what's important for students to know, and these themes have always been important, but after the pandemic and then when the fires happened and many students had lost their homes, we really kind of refocused again to think about what really matters, what is it most important that we're sharing, how do we support students that have been through so much. And so we came up with these, gratitude, empathy, resilience, justice, inclusion, community, and connection. And those are the themes that we work in all the things we do with our students. And so I mentioned one of the things we do is to bring students out to the farm. And so it feels important for us to connect students to their food and have this positive relationship and start to know where food is grown. The people that grow their food appreciate the farm workers. And so students get to come out, they harvest food for a lunch together. They get a chance to cook food from scratch, which is also a really important skill in terms of using food, and food waste is to know how to cook food from scratch. And then they get to sit down and eat this meal together as part of the field trip program. So we do that at both Hanley Farm and the farm at SOU. Hanley Farm, of course, they also love getting to visit with the sheep. And then they're harvesting the fruits and vegetables at the farm for their meal. This also, besides just learning kind of this hard skills of how to cook and learning about the farms themselves, it's also really a chance for students to build connections amongst themselves. We've noticed how important it is in relationships with students amongst each other, with their teacher, and then of course with that bigger community of the farm and their place in the community. Students also get a chance to do tasting tables. We do this every month. We have our harvest of the month. So for example, February is beets. This one was from last year, was radishes in the spring. They get to try a fruit or vegetable prepared in a couple different ways. And so that also is just building this idea of being adventurous, trying new things, and being connected. We have our featured farmers, so they know what farm that produce came from, and they get to try it in ways that maybe are new or different for them. And again, it's just building that positive relationship with food, something new and fun and exciting. And then the piece I want to talk about that most relates to the direct food waste issue. We got a grant from DEQ a couple of years ago. Originally, it was going to be focused on plate waste. We had to shift that a little bit because of the pandemic. Students were not actually in school when we first started this grant. And so we shifted to thinking about how we could work with the students to compost their food waste. So when students came back to school last year, we started a compost program at Phoenix Elementary and Talent Elementary. And so we worked with Rogue Produce, who was already doing compost pickups in the area, to come to the school. So students learned about what compost was, they learned how to compost, and we made a great film about it, which is in our actions page if you want to check it out. But the kids got a chance to learn all the important reasons why we bother to compost. And then this compost was picked up. It was taken to a couple different farms. Right now, it's going to Everett's Ridge Farm, and so they have they're doing vermiculture. The compost is going into giant worm bins and getting composted, and then we get that beautiful compost back to use in our school gardens. So the students really are getting to see this in action, and we've all this food waste that would have gone into the trash cans at school. There's a lot of food waste in schools, and it may not be an aspect of food waste that people are tuning into, but it's amazing to see how much food gets dumped in the trash. So it's really exciting to get to have this and for students to learn about composting. And we tie this all into what they're doing in the garden. They compost in the garden as well, but they're learning about food waste in the garden, learning to cook and grow their own food in those garden classes that happen weekly. So just building all these different connections to feel more connected to their community and what they can do to make positive changes around food waste and climate change. So that's it for me. I'm excited to pass it along to Jeanette Hardison. So Jeanette, if you want to, I'll stop sharing so you can share your screen. And I'll tell you a little bit about Jeanette while she's getting that going.
Share screen.
Okay, so I'll just tell you a little bit about Jeanette. She works for the nonprofit Corvallis Sustainability Coalition and is founder and director of their residential No Food Left Behind program. Jeanette has worked in waste prevention in Corvallis for nearly 30 years. She served as education chair for the Association of Oregon Recyclers and was awarded their statewide Individual Recycler of the Year award. Jeanette is also an OSU grad. Go Beavs! Love that you added that in there.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. Yeah, the No Food Left Behind program is a program of the nonprofit Corvallis Sustainability Coalition. This program was founded in 2018, also with DEQ funding from Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, to teach preventing wasted food at home. And our program is structured based on the US EPA Region 10's Food Too Good to Waste campaign. And our primary outreach, I'll tell you more about that in a second. Our primary outreach started out with face-to-face conversations at farmers markets, presentations like this one to community groups, churches, service clubs, and in fifth grade classrooms through something that we call eco-edutainment. It's original musical content and activities for kids, which I'll also talk about in a little bit. In 2020, we were awarded another DEQ grant a month before COVID hit. So you can imagine how that impacted us. The second round was supposed to expand into fourth grade classrooms. Of course, they were shut down completely. And we were also going to be targeting Spanish language outreach, but we figured out some workarounds. You know, when everything just completely stopped, we still had to persevere. We had a grant, we had outreach, we had a great program, and we wanted to figure it out. So we did. And I've been asked to share with you what has made our program successful, how we overcame our hurdles, and mainly the kind of messaging that we've found that people respond to, at least in our community, and what they don't, and what really engages people in our experience. And again, No Food Left Behind was designed as a sister program to the EPA's Food Too Good to Waste campaign. They ran a challenge of their own to waste less food. They tried lots of different tools, figured out what helped people make changes, and then they created an implementation guide and toolkit for programs like ours and any of yours, complete with all the templates for what they and we call SMART strategies, which are listed here. Then when we first launched, we ran our own 6-week challenge to figure out which of these SMART strategies work best in our community. And we found that by providing the right tools that make it easy for folks, the participating households in the challenge reduced their wasted food by an average of 21% and reduced money spent on wasted food by 44%. The SMART strategies work. I'll share more about them in a moment. First, I want to tell you that in our outreach, we followed each lead, and we distinguish between food waste and wasted food. Food waste generally includes all the organic matter from a kitchen, edible or not, from the overripe banana to the banana peel, from the half-eaten chicken stir fry or tofu stir fry to the bones, if it's not tofu. At No Food Left Behind, we focus on preventing wasted food. That's the previously edible food that you bought or grew that I like to say we coulda, shoulda, woulda. It coulda, shoulda, woulda been eaten if some behavior didn't happen that allowed that good food to go bad. It happens to all of us. So we teach these folks to notice, we teach folks to notice these behaviors and then lean on one of our easy SMART strategy tools to change those behaviors and then cut their family's food costs and carbon footprint. Also, we continue to follow DEQ's wisdom gained from extensive community research that they did, and the results were released right before COVID. And interestingly, they found that the average citizen actually gets overwhelmed by all the messages about doom and gloom now. And this is pre-COVID. When they hear about how big the food waste problem really is on a global scale, audiences glaze over and we lose them. So now that doesn't mean that we don't share why it's so important. We still want them to know that 25% of the food bought is never eaten, 40% of the food grown in the US is never eaten. And of course, this bar chart at the bottom, I use that graphic every time. We just don't linger there. We do want to make sure folks know that most of the impact is actually in the upstream resources, as Flavia was mentioning, the land, the seeds, the soil, the people, the fuel at almost every step along the way, all the way to refrigeration, storage, cooking, disposal, don't forget about packaging. And so not as much of the impact is from methane, from landfilling food, though that does have an impact, but the larger percentage of impact is from extracting and consuming all these resources for nothing. We pull it out, we made food, and then we tossed it, whether that's composted or tossed, and I'll talk about that here in a second here. Composting food scraps is great, but it's the last resort before landfilling. It's not a solution for prevention. We've definitely found, though, that compost conversations are the gateway to talking about prevention. If you get a spiel from us, excuse me, if you get a pail from us at the farmer's market, then you also got to listen to our spiel, where we tell people that, if you're doing the best job you can, there's actually not that much in your compost pail. So we really want people to think about all those resources that it took to get the food from farm to fork as embedded in our foods and in the price. And research shows that when we think about that, when we're shopping, when we're storing the food, when we're cooking it, and even when we're eating it, when we pay attention to what gets tossed, we try to do better next time. Wasted food is wasted resources. But then we can shift the conversation. We talk about changing what we can change, our own actual behaviors that led to the waste, usually just bad habits like over-serving, overbuying, improper cooking, and improper storage. But there's something else that may surprise you about DEQ's research, like it did them. First, they learned the doom and gloom does not work, and it even backfires. So fear and guilt was out. It feels bad. Second, that folks want to know what's in it for them. They want to know what they can do right now to make a difference, and that feels good. What simple, actionable steps can affect change now? But third was the fact that people are more motivated now to waste less food if it will save them money. That was more motivational now than environmentally. Again, this was pre-COVID, and this is pre-COVID before the supply chain issues that have even doubled the cost of food. So now our primary outreach is about that. It's a little bit of why, and then a lot of how, and how simple it really is with all the right tools. Now, I mentioned we had to pivot when COVID hit. There were hurdles of no school and no in-person outreach. Well, luckily for us, in our second grant, we were already planning an online presence with a blog that we call Kitchen Confessions. Where is my animation? There it is. The whole first 2 COVID years, as a matter of fact. And we were counting on that as our primary outreach until restrictions lifted. And our outreach specialist, Kay Renee Koss, who's on our call today, she also tables at the farmer's market. She's our outreach specialist I mentioned. She's written over 30 blogs now. And in keeping with the research, we keep things positive. We focus on ease and saving money, even when we take on the more sensitive subjects like meat and dairy. We do it without guilt because it doesn't work. It may work on some, but it can turn them off. We want to keep them turned on. We want to keep them excited and thinking about, oh, well, I can do that. I can eat less meat, less dairy. Eventually, they may even, eliminate it entirely. We meet people where they are. So I want to invite you to check this blog out. It was actually our most popular blog to date. And we, like I said, we take it on with grace. We address why the carbon footprint of dairy and meat is so much higher. And then we let people make their own choices. So also pivoting, we did have all of our printed material translated in Spanish already. So even though we couldn't print it and distribute it, it is downloadable on our website. And most notably, since we couldn't be in schools, DEQ allowed us to use that portion of our funding to create videos in place of our in-school presentation, plus some additional funding from the Sustainability Coalition. It was not an inexpensive endeavor to make this, and it took forever with all the shutdowns, if you can imagine the farm shutdowns, and then the wildfires. But hooray, now we're back in schools and we get to do a bit of a hybrid where we show the videos and do the activities with the kiddos. This is Sherston Helene leading our kids. She's our resident educator and eco-edutainer, and she produced 3 short, fabulous videos all about tonight's subject, and they're available on our website. They're geared towards 5th graders, but honestly, all ages love them. So we recommend those as well. There's a QR code at the bottom. And in this activity at the bottom, she's teaching them all about the places all along the food chain from seed to plate where natural resources are consumed. It's very eye-opening, no matter the age. So getting back to how I present about wasted food, I like to do a little bit of myth busting in my presentations when I'm talking to folks. A lot of folks have not heard a lot on this subject. So often when Kay Renee is if she's tabling at farmers market, someone will say grocery stores and restaurants, they need to do better. They waste so much. It's a myth that they waste the most. It's us. We are the biggest contributors. The biggest percentage of wasted food in the US occurs once we've brought it home. Myth number 2, it's hard to change habits or prevention takes too much time. Well, the truth is, once you and your family have the right tools, again, the tools, it's a time and money saver, and it can even be fun. So how much money are we talking about? Well, I tell them, imagine it's dinner time and you're sitting at the table. Wherever you eat, there's a plate of freshly prepared food sitting in front of you. Someone grew it, if not you, someone else processed it, transported it, packaged those ingredients, etc. Someone bought it, someone prepared it. And now someone walks over and scrapes off a fourth of your food right into the trash or compost pail. We'd be horrified if someone did that to if someone did that to my meal, but that's essentially what's happening in the US, because the average, my family will change. The average American family of 4 throws out the equivalent of 1 out of every 4 bags of groceries. It's like walking out of the store, putting 3 bags in the bike or the trunk and throwing the other one out. Life gets busy, but sometimes we eat out more often, or we skip meals, or food goes bad before we can eat it. But we need to treat food like the investment that it is, because the average American family of 4 is spending $1,600 on food that's never eaten. So wasted food is wasted resources, yes. And wasted food is also wasted money. So when you appeal to people from that, they are listening. And then I go on to say, but we can change that by changing our habits. And that brings me to the how of my presentation. I tell them about our website, how easy it is to find ways to do this at home. We offer the SMART strategies in English and Spanish, the fruit and vegetable storage guide, the freezer inventory, eat first signs, meal planners, creative recipes, a local list of leftovers, recipes with leftovers. We even had a contest or a drawing for it, and got a lot of fun additions. I'll show you in just a moment. And again, all available in English and Spanish. The fruit and veggie storage guide, which I believe is in our from this meeting, the resources list. This offers a way to store specific fruit and vegetables, whether it's asparagus in a glass of water or the fridge, basil in the water or on the counter, or not washing berries until it's time to eat them. It's also in Spanish with culturally appropriate additions like nopal or prickly pear cactus and tomatillo. The storage guides are designed to live on the fridge. On the inside, we talk about off-gassing, keeping the bananas, apples, avocados, and tomatoes separate because they will help ripen each other. Unless you don't want that, keep them separate. Unless you want that, keep them separate. On the back, there's a small section about date labeling. We make sure people know that there is no such thing as expiring food except for baby formula. It's been standardized as best by date, and we actually blog about that too. Okay, Renee wrote one called "Check It Before You Chuck It." I love that. And while we don't spend much time talking about canning and preserving, that's also an excellent way to store foods for future use, and we make sure people know about that. The OSU Extension Service Master Food Preservers is an amazing resource. They have hundreds of documents that you can download, and I really highly recommend them. The freezer inventory has been really popular. You just write in there write on there what's in your freezer, and then as you use it up, you mark it off. As you shop, you add it again. And we always like to say, shop your pantry, your fridge, and your freezer first before you go shopping. Is there one already open? Do some scoping. You'll see that in the videos, the eco-edutainment videos. And so, when we properly store them, they don't become science experiments. That's when the good food goes bad. But this is super easy to use. It just takes some upkeep. It prevents overbuying, helps get you meal ideas, and it saves you money. The Eat First signs have been one of our
2 minutes there, Jeanette.
Oh gosh. Okay. So the Eat First signs are really popular. These are downloadable as well. We blog about that too. Making sure that you put the dates on the front instead of the top of your food, because if you put it on top, well, something probably get put on top and then it's gone. That doesn't work. That I learned, this is from my own fridge. I learned that the hard way. And in our kitchen confessions, we admit to those kinds of things. So slide 22, let's see here. Getting creative, making food from food. We talk about that in the kitchen confessions. That top one that I just pulled up with the green little balls, that is carrot top pesto. And we have recipes for that in our website. Let's see here. We offer compost collection pails with stickers listing what our garbage and recycling hauler will accept at the curb for in the yard debris cart. We also have our compost facility will also accept meats and food scraps. By the way, the pail is made 100% recycled plastic, manufactured in North America. And then folks can pick up their free or by donation compost pails when we have informational tables at the market, farmers market. Pro tip for everybody here, if you put a paper liner on the bottom of your compost pail, when you dump it, it just pops right out. And then I'll just talk, with the audience. In the case of Zonta, when we talked with Zonta, I gave a presentation to the Zonta group, which supports women and girls. I talked to them about climate change not being gender neutral and how women are disproportionately affected by the effects of climate change. So yeah, just make sure we reach them where they are. And our collaborations are things like the downtown business and staff garages and attics are used for storing farmers market materials year round. Oregon DEQ was certainly the reason we were able to take, get this program and get some footing in the community. And Republic Services, our hauler, allows us the storage of pallets of compost pails there. So yeah, it's a small town, 60,000 or so, and just a really popular program. So to conclude, we talk to people where they are. We tell them what's at stake, but we don't stay in doom and gloom. We tell them it's all about changing small behaviors, and then we give them all the tools that they can match up with those behaviors. And usually people really love it. So we've gotten a lot of great feedback.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks.
I'll stop sharing now.
Okay. All right. So thanks a lot for that. And I appreciate Rebecca Slosberg's presentation too. It's really hard to connect your daily sustainability into decision making, and it's a challenge to do that. And then to help transfer that shift in thinking to the next generation is also hard. So I appreciate what Rogue Valley Farm to School is doing. So let me see if I could share my screen and make this work. All right. Yeah. Okay. So we got through this slide, and you've seen this slide from Jeanette. And so we won't spend too much time on this, just trying to put a size to this. It's the equivalent of 37 million cars. And the point I'm trying to make here is that going sustainable, the path to going sustainable has to lead through food, because it's just too big of an issue to ignore. And I also wanted to bring up, what wasted food also causes, that there are still 34 million people in the US that are food insecure, which means they don't have a reliable access to affordable, nutritious food. And that includes 9 million children. And so these are not, oh, it's just an anomaly in 1 year or just because of the pandemic. It's an ongoing chronic problem that we have in our system. And 100% of US counties have that problem. So we have a significant quantity of food waste. And then we have the problem of what happens when food rots, which is the chemical reactions in the process of decomposing food in the landfills without oxygen. So what happens here, of course, is that when the shortwave visible radiation passing through the atmosphere hits the surface, there it's transformed into heat, which radiates outward and gets trapped by atmospheric gases. So when it's a thin layer of atmospheric gases, that's okay, and that moderates our temperature. But when the layer gets thicker, when that red line gets thicker, that's when we trap too much heat. And so as Jeanette alluded, the way I got involved is I became involved up here in the Ashland area with people that were doing the Project Drawdown workshops. And they were focused on food as the #3 solution. So Project Drawdown, for those that don't know, is a compilation of all the existing solutions that would address climate change. And they ranked them according to how effective the solution is if it were scaled up. if if it were scaled up to a global scale. And when you combine that with a plant-rich diet, it's not just enough not to waste food, but also to choose food that's more sustainably produced. Then when you combine these two numbers, then it starts to compete with number one solutions. So yeah, there we go. It's working now with my little finger. Okay, there. So let me go through these and I'll get to the last part. Okay. Forward, back, there we go. So I wanted to show this chart. These are some of the other impacts of our food system. It doesn't have so much to do as waste, but how our food is produced. So, the person who's credited with starting the Green Revolution is Norm Borlaug, and he received a Nobel Prize in 1970. And he's also credited with saving 1 billion people from starvation. So, I'm not disputing that, but what this chart does is it compares how sustainable conventional farming is compared to organic. And while it is better on yield, which is up here, this measure, it is a little bit deficient in these other areas. And so we'll take a closer look at these other areas to help understand what this sustainability comparison is all about. So I see, that's the thing. So with organic, it's more difficult. It's a little bit fuzzy here, but you could see organic is much better at reducing workers from exposure to pesticides, not suicides, pesticides. And it's much better at minimizing the water pollution and the minimizing pesticide residues, and it's better for ecosystem services. So integrating farming with the surrounding ecosystem, organic is the way to go. And the soil quality marks much higher than in the conventional. So this is the conventional, this way. Okay, that's what's wrong, is my down keys are not working. There, and one more click. There, click, there. So here you can see the soil quality is pretty poor marks, and also the biodiversity is also pretty poor marks. So then I just wanted to show the and I know Jeanette was talking about doom and gloom, but I can't really, there we go. I can't really leave without showing this. This is Harris Ranch, which is just off of I-5 as you're going through from Northern to Central California. And 250,000 head of cattle go through this every year. And so there's issues with the way food is produced. There's issues with pollution and contamination, because a lot of the manure and water coming out of here is not good for us. And 33% of agricultural land is used to grow food for livestock. So it could, if we were making better choices and requiring less livestock into our diets, we could use that land instead for growing food. And the other issue with having this much livestock is that the agricultural industry has now put an ag-gag law in place, so that we don't have a Freedom of Information Act with these issues, and if you were to show up at one of these lots with a camera, you would be listed as a terrorist. So I also wanted to point out this chart, which gives you a very simple comparison, conventional versus regenerative agriculture. So if we can direct our legislators towards more of the subsidies incentivizing regenerative agriculture, we could get away from depleted soils, and we could get more towards a restored environment. So we're getting close to the time where we need to stop. I'll just, I wanted to show this about policies, that we have big crops, big ag and big food, and they're wielding a lot of power. They're wielding power in our consumer habits and our price setting power, and their price setting power and their lobbying power. And a lot of the subsidies have largely traditionally been given to few crops and big acres. So the small farmers tend to lose out on these on federal aid packages. So and there's also an issue with weakened regulations. So I wanted to just quickly show you about what you can do. So this is a comparison. If you were to choose proteins that have a lighter carbon footprint, you would be helping a lot. And we have an actions page. I'm gonna skip over this. We have an actions page where a lot of this we can talk about. And so I wanted to get to the questions. Okay, and this is what we need to do more of. We need to do more planning, a little bit more awareness, you know, take a look at the food you have on hand before you go to the store so that you're not buying the things you already have by mistake. And also a little bit more gratitude, more sharing, more community. And, you know, this is a diagram my friend made for composting. It retains soil moisture, it reduces methane, and it restores soil health. So that's a message from my friend. So I just wanted to show this. This is what I borrowed from my Master Climate Protector class. This is our responsibility, is that, you know, per capita, that means per person, we have one of the highest carbon footprints. So we kind of have a responsibility to carry some of the weight in the cleanup. And that's what I'm hoping that people will consider, like, why should I care about this issue? And so this is our actions page. And if you go to SoCanEco/food waste, we've written a list of things that you can look at and learn from and get involved with if you want. And for Food Waste Prevention Week, you could take the pledge. And what that means is by taking the pledge, and the URL is down here. By taking the pledge, you're just saying, I'm going to do this thing, and then you share it on social media. So it's kind of fun to join in and be part of the voice that is saying, yeah, we want to change this. We want to make things better for the future. So I'll stop there, and hopefully I've left enough time for questions.
So at this point, Dale Engel has agreed to take the questions from the chat, and he'll ask them and direct them to one of our speakers. Rebecca had to leave for another meeting, and so those questions, if they're in the chat, we will share those and we will get answers back to you. But if you have additional questions, go ahead and continue putting those in the chat. Go ahead, Dale.
Thank you, Kathy. So we did have a couple of questions for Rebecca. John Livingston asked, and I believe this is probably in context of Hanley Farm and the farm at SOU, how is the killing of animals handled with the school kids? And then Gail also had a question for Rebecca, and Jeanette may actually be able to respond to this a little bit. plate waste, what do you do with meat, cheese, etc.? It is my understanding that they are not compostable.
So in Corvallis and Albany with Republic Services, our yard debris scraps, actually I should say the contents of our yard debris cart, they go to a regional compost facility, and in the last 10 years, that compost facility applied for a permit with DEQ, and they were the first in the state to be permitted to accept meat and dairy and fats. So in our area, we can put meat and cheese and fats in our yard cart, which it says yard debris, but it's also just all, you know, organic materials. And that includes meat and cheese at this point. But yes, most places it's not acceptable. And you really wouldn't want to put that in a backyard compost that wasn't a nicely contained unit, because that's really going to attract vermin. So I would suggest just being very judicious with your use of cheese and your, you know, amount of meat, and trying to use less. And I'll put a link to our blog, the one about the conscientious carnivore, which gives all kinds of great resources for how to do that on a regular basis, how to recognize your dietary choices and buy and consume fewer animal products, and then waste less of what you do buy. So, you know, it's hard to avoid it sometimes, or if you're cutting off the fat off of a cut of meat. But, you know, some people have dogs or farm animals, and so obviously that's higher up in the food chain than composting, or as far as the preferred methods. So we recommend that as well.
Great. Thank you, Jeanette. Another question for you from Luke. Why do you not yard compost, and how much better is it decomposing food in compost versus landfill off gassing?
I don't have any technical answers for that, but I will definitely say that in our community, this is a college town, so there's a lot of multi-unit housing, which means that they may not have access to those, to a yard cart. And so every single time that Kay Renee is tabling, she gets a question, what do I do with my scraps? So we don't have a good answer for that yet. I'm working on that with some of the folks in town. And, you know, stay tuned. Maybe eventually we'll have some drop sites. It is something that places can offer, but, you know, obviously there's a cost involved, and sometimes issues with the haulers and permitting. So some people do compost if they can in their yard. Others can and don't. We do have a weekly yard cart pickup in Corvallis. So convenience there is, you know, it's helpful.
Right.
Could I throw in a comment in response to that question? The importance is, when you're backyard composting, you have to have aerobic conditions. That means you have to have oxygen in your compost pile. What's then happening is aerobic digestion, and that is breaking the organic matter down and releasing carbon dioxide. The big problem with landfills is that they get piled up, and the conditions in the landfill become oxygen-free, anaerobic, and the product of decay in anaerobic conditions is methane. And so the landfill is going to release methane, whereas your backyard compost, so long as you take care of it appropriately, will release carbon dioxide, which is, as Flavia mentioned, is pound for pound much less harming as a greenhouse gas than methane.
And it produces this wonderful soil amendment rather than just a, you know, growing landfill.
Right. And so when it goes to the landfill, like our Dry Creek landfill can capture the methane, but they can't capture all of it. So still 25% of the methane that's building up inside that landfill does get escaped. They can capture it and use it to power 3,000 homes, but then they have to burn off half of it. So that is just wasted energy when it could be nutrients going into the ground for future growth.
Thank you, Flavia. Luke had another question. By organic, do you mean organic certified, or simply those that do not use fossil fuel-based fertilizers and crops meant for a lot of pesticides?
Right, I would generally think about saying buy organic as organic certified. If you were to say, well, but I grew it in my yard and I didn't use pesticides, so isn't that organic? Well, sure, sure it is. And I do want to say, I think it's important to buy local as well, because you're supporting the local economy, which is important in Southern Oregon. We want to support ourselves and be more resilient. And it builds community too. The executive director of the growers market, Rogue Valley Growers Market, her tagline is, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy local, and that's just about the same thing. So there you go.
Can I offer something real quick? You got me thinking about this. On our website, we have something that I don't think a lot of people know is there, but it's really interesting. And folks in this organization, in this group, would probably find it more interesting than most, just simply because it's the life cycles of food products and their environmental footprints. So I just put it in the document, or excuse me, in the chat. But it's aquaculture, the food print or footprint of citrus, of food transportation, of food packaging, of pork, tomatoes, and wine. These are the condensed versions, and then there's a link, which I hope is still good, to read the full reports on those. But that may be something that this group would be really interested in reading about, and that helps you make different and better food choices, packaging choices, and again, as Flavia said, if it's purchased locally, it didn't have as far to go, and therefore it had a smaller footprint as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Gail has a comment. I work in a food pantry, and all the food that is spoiled, donated from local grocers, is placed in a garbage can and given to a pig farmer. Right after that, Farmer Jeff Meyer from the Josephine County Food Bank Farm, Raptor Creek Farm, says, if anyone knows anyone interested in maintaining our school composting program, I would be glad to take the surplus school waste and compost it here on our farm.
Oh, yeah. So I'll put my email address into the chat, and it was, what was the person's name?
It's Jeff Meyer.
Okay. All right.
Yay, networking.
He says basically just looking for someone that would like to go to a handful of schools in the Grants Pass area and help collect the school cafeteria waste.
Right. Okay.
Dale, I think we should wrap up so we can go to the SOCAN final information. Is there? Are we good?
I think that's pretty much it. Karen says most of my scraps go in my stock pot. I assume that is a good use.
Yes.
I think we'd all agree. As far as the links that were put into chat, Kathy, how can we follow up on those in case people didn't capture them?
I'll save. Well, people can save the chat. You probably can tell them better than I how to do that. Mine saves automatically.
It's in your chat window, and at the very lower left-hand corner, there are three little icons, and to the right of the happy face are three dots. And if you click those three dots, the very first thing says Save Chat.
Nice.
And it'll save it to your computer or however you're connecting.
And I will add that in the final, at the end, I'll send an email to you. And in that, if there's a questionnaire, if you answer the questionnaire and you want to put a question that wasn't answered, but you need to leave me your email address, I'll make sure that it gets answered. So that's in the final slide that I'll give you the details on that. Well, I'd like to thank our speakers. we can tell from the number of people who are here tonight that this is an important topic to a lot of people. And we will continue to work to help encourage people to take action and get you more ideas. So don't hesitate to connect with us if you want more information. What I'm going to do is share just a few things with you. The first is that each of the speakers has added information to our SOCAN action page. So if you go to socan.eco/action and you look down the left side, individual action, you'll see under consumption, food waste prevention. That's the link to things that they've been talking about, their websites, Facebook pages, as well as other information. So I encourage you to go to socan.eco/action. And Flavia's talked about Food Prevention Week, and I think she's given you that link. So again, encouraging you to do things through that group, ideas for families to do things to work on food waste prevention. Very quickly, SOCAN has a monthly broadcast and reminder. If you're not on that list and would like to, if you go to our main page, socan.eco, and on the right side, there's a place where you can sign up for that. If you sign up and don't like it, you can unsubscribe very easily. We also have a blog on our website, and if you would like to receive an email notification when there's a post on that blog, you can sign up for that. So you go to socan.eco/blog and you'll see the sign up to get those notices, and also you can unsubscribe if you want to. The rest of the things I'm going to share with you are events that SOCAN is doing, but also other groups in the area. Any of these the SOCAN events, if you go to socan.eco/events, you'll get the details. So I'm not going to give you all the details, just the basic information. SOCAN has different programs. Within the government program is the regional and local project. That main group is going to meets monthly. Thursday the 27th is their next meeting. That's a Zoom meeting. Within that project, there are action teams. So there's a Medford, a Jacksonville, a Talent action team that have meetings coming up in April. The Ashland Climate Action Team is being reformed with the new climate policy director, and that meeting will probably be in April. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. There are also teams in Grants Pass and Applegate that don't have meetings scheduled, but if you're interested in that, I'll give you my email address at the end. Sorry, it's right here, Kathy@socan.eco, if you want any more information on any of these. Also within the government program, the federal and state project will meet on April 10th. That group is actively following legislation. And if you're interested in legislation that connects with climate change, you're invited to join that group or email Alan@socan.eco. They're following very carefully, writing a lot of testimony and being very active representing Southern Oregon. Under the Natural Resources Program, the Forest and Fire Project will meet on the 20th, and that's a Zoom meeting. We have a group under our climate engagement program called Sustaining Climate Activists, and anybody is invited to join us. These are very important sessions to help people working on climate change deal with some of the issues that we encounter. This group is shifting to in-person at Blue Heron Park in Phoenix. Saturday, April 22nd will be the next meeting for that group. SOCAN's monthly meeting, always the last Tuesday of the month, like this one. We are going to be in person at the Medford Public Library for our April meeting. The topic is going to be Salem 2023, what's up? And so we will address legislation that is still alive, moving through the legislature, and actions that can be taken to help support that. So that's on the 25th, and that will be from 6 until 7:30. Earth Day is coming up, and we will be involved in events at Road Community College and also at SOU, all on the 21st. That's a Friday. And if you're interested in working at one of our booths, please contact me, Kathy at socan.eco, and we'd be glad to have you be with us as we talk with people about climate change issues. We have other projects that don't have meetings. You can go to our SOCAN website and see links about these and what's happening and who's the lead person to connect with if you have interest in some of these areas. I'd like to switch to other groups that are doing things that you may be interested in. Sustainable Rogue Valley is working with the RCC Earth Club and are doing bioswale work on April 1st. The Streets for Everyone, which is part of Ashland Climate Collaborative, is working on protected bike lanes in Ashland. SOCAN has joined them in sponsoring a ride for safe streets and the climate, and that's going to be Tuesday, April 4th. If you want more information on that, ashlandclimate.org, and then transportation is going to give you more details. Southern Oregon Citizens Climate Lobby, their monthly meeting in person in Ashland is on Saturday, April 8th. Sustainable Rogue Valley, their regular monthly meeting, it's a hybrid, and it's on April 16th. The Pollinator Project Rogue Valley has food plants for butterflies. This is part 2. You need to get a ticket for this, and those are available on their Facebook page, Pollinator Project. KS Wild and Rogue Riverkeeper have their Bear Creek Stewardship Day on Saturday, April 22nd. And if you go to Facebook, KS Wild, their details and information about tickets for that event. Rogue Valley Voice maintains a climate action calendar. So if you go to roguevalleyvoice.com and look for the calendar, you'll find different events in the area. ROCPAC is a political action committee. It's Rural Oregon's voice on climate action. And so that's a group that you might want to consider supporting and connecting with. And the Oregon Climate Action Hub is trying to create a calendar where climate action throughout the state of Oregon is listed with details. I encourage you to look at that. It's orclimatehub.org, and there are options or opportunities for volunteering as well as events throughout the state. So I would like to offer my thanks to our speakers for their time and all their work they're doing. Really appreciate you being with us tonight and sharing information. Also to Isabella Lee Tibbetts, Alan and Dale for helping with the coordinating. If you've been part of one of these, you know that who's behind the scenes matters a lot. And thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. It's really important to spread the word, spread information, spread ideas. It's us working together that really makes a difference. And then don't forget the webpage that has ideas on it. It's socan.eco/action, and then look for food waste prevention. Finally, I sent an email about 6:30, and in it was a link to a follow-up, a survey. If you have questions that are not answered, go into that survey. It only takes like 2 minutes to do, and put your question in there, but include your email address and we will get back to you with an answer. SOCAN.eco is the website, info@socan.eco. If you have questions and you want to connect with us. If you're able, we survive by the support of financial support of people like you. So we always appreciate having that support if that's something you're able to do. So I would like to, sorry, stop recording.